He is the victim of a crime.
We have agreed never to go back. Never!
What was the purpose of our leaving? Let us not forget it was out of hope of something good and right.
You should not have made decisions without us. You have gone too
I'm
far.
guilty, Robert! I made a decision of the heart. I cannot look into another's eyes and see the same look I see in August's without justification. It is too painful. I cannot bear it.
You have jeopardized everything we've made.
Hello, listening people.
Hello.
Hello, Bartek. How are you doing, man?
Pretty good, man. I'm Forrest Gump.
What?
I mean, you're Ryan.
Why would you say that? We're not covering Forrest Gump today.
Oh.
Is it his birthday?
No,
Do you know when he was born?
Well, today's 420 and Easter Sunday.
Yeah, it's a very religious day for us on the podcast. As all people know, Polish Lent usually means we take a break from podcasts, which is what we did recently.
Yes, that's true.
And we also are getting over sicknesses, both of us.
Oh boy, yeah.
Oh boy, the sickness of, I don't know, life
Yeah,
getting us down.
Ryan's sneeze man, I'm cough man.
Yes,
No, sorry, you're sniff
Yes,
man.
I'm Sniffles. You can be hot and I can be cold and we can both be man. We can be hot, cold man.
I had a 39-degree fever the other day.
Yep, that's why we're hot, cold man.
Yeah.
You
Ryan and I went on a meat date and then I got really hot.
A meat date. It was very good. But we are back here to do our podcast. Spit and Polish is here to present to you Pictures Powwow, in which we talk about a movie that has come recommended, and the movie that has been recommended today was from one of our listeners, one of the listening people. You out there made a suggestion and we put it in our list and we eventually get around to it. So if you have suggestions, if you have movie suggestions, make sure to contact us. All of that's in the description below. But yeah, we sit down and we talk about a movie that comes recommended. Next movie will be a recommendation from Bartek, and then the one after that, I'll be recommending a movie. Then we're back to you, the listening people. So make sure to give us your recommendations so we can add them to our list, because we always want more.
Yeah.
But today we are talking about our good friend M. Night Shyamalan. He recommended the movie to us. He said, guys, could you please do a little film of mine? One that I shot in my backyard. It's called The Village.
Oh, Ryan, come on. You know he didn't say it that way. He made it sound like he had no idea what this film was, but he heard it was really good.
I've never heard of this film. I think Roger Ebert really liked it, and I really want you guys to like it too.
He put it on his most hated list, but it was opposite day.
Yeah, he was actually being snarky and sarcastic. M. Night would actually hear most hated list, and he's like, "Oh, he meant most liked list." That's what he meant.
Well, it was
by that.
opposite day.
It was opposite day, but no. In actuality, one of Bartek's friends recommended The Village. Amanda.
Yes, I think this is our fourth recommendation from Amanda. She recommended The Village, and this recommendation came in the same little quartet as Bodies, 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 where in that message she sent to me, she listed 4 films as being her favorite, like, horror/thriller films. There was Bodies, 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 The Village, and 2 others that are also on the list.
That we have yet to get to. So, The Village, for those who are unaware, is a film that is obviously mysterious and has twists and turns because it's M. Night Shyamalan and he loves that shit. So if I have to give a basic summary for those who do not want to get fully spoiled on things, it is about a community living in a village in the middle of who knows where during the 19th century, and they are very secluded. They are very superstitious. There's this kind of weird folklorian stuff about creatures in the woods outside of the village, and it's about the society of the village getting a little bit restless. There's a little bit of unease about the status quo as things start to shift. But don't you worry, there's more to come. There's a blind character. There's Joaquin Phoenix. A young Jesse Eisenberg shows up and makes me laugh a lot because he looks the exact same as he does now, but in a big coat.
We can't laugh at him anymore. You know what happened to him last month?
What?
He became a Polish citizen.
He did?
Yeah.
He made that movie in Poland.
Yeah, and he became a Polish citizen.
He won a Culkin, an Academy Award. Just think, when we started this podcast, I didn't even know how to say that last name. Now, now, not Macaulay, but one of the other ones is an Academy Award winner. Think about that. The other Culkin in Home Alone is an Academy Award winner because of Poland. Think about that. Poland is to thank for the Academy giving an award to a Culkin. And you know what? That's my Polish fact of today. And your Polish fact would say Jesse Eisenberg became a Polish citizen.
Mm-hmm.
So there you are. I hope he votes in the Polish elections.
He has the right.
He will get a fine if he does not vote in the Polish elections.
No, that's just Australia.
Do we only do fines for not voting?
I don't know
Do
if
the Americans not do that?
No, American does not do that.
Are they stupid? Guys,
I don't know how
are
many
you
countries
stupid?
have.
You have the freedom to vote, but also you should vote.
I don't know how many countries do it, but no, we are one of the ones that get fined if we don't vote.
Could you look up for the next episode if Poland gives fines for not voting, or do you just know? You just know in your heart that that's the case. I mean, you did meet a Polish leader at one time before they horrifically died.
That's true, and the current Polish leader who granted the citizenship to Jesse Eisenberg is only 1 degree of separation from me.
Oh,
yeah.
Are they your brother? Great.
No, I think the night he won the election, I was in Poland and I was chatting to my stepmom and then he called her.
That's right.
In front of
He's
me.
the one that's called. You've met one and you've been in the room of another winning. When they talk to your stepmom on the phone.
I could have yelled and he could have heard me.
Yeah. You could have yelled
and then
give women rights and he would have listened, but you didn't.
And then
he did not.
A dozen and something years later, he said, Jesse Eisenberg, you can be Polish citizen.
Has he been the leader that long, or has he just dipped in and out?
No, it's
Is
been
he
a
the
while.
John Howard of Poland, where he just does not go away until a charismatic nerd who knows how to use Facebook will take him down?
Should I look up how long Duda's been in power?
You know who made Facebook? Jesse Eisenberg. But The Village. Everyone make sure to watch this for yourself. We're going to get into the spoilers of it all. We're going to get into the juicy details. I mean, you know what you're getting in for because of the filmmaker. If you are coming to a podcast where we're going to talk about a film by M. Night Shyamalan and you are going to be jaw-dropped that we reveal the big things of the movie, then that's on you because this is what he lives to do. M. Night Shyamalan is such a contentious figure. We've covered several of his films now, and I talked about last time on the podcast that we have probably covered more of his bad films than his good films because, you know, he has made very bad films, but he's also made very good films.
This will be our 4th one. We've done one good one.
And this is the one that tipped the scales for people when it was first out. Like, we had Signs was, Signs, it was it was well received. I remember Signs being well liked, but The Village is the one where, like we joked and mentioned, the critics started to turn and the general masses were like, this isn't it, buddy. But it also has a lot of things to praise and defenders of it. I've watched The Village several times throughout the years. M. Night Shyamalan was just a filmmaker when growing up. His films were always on. They were always about. They were word of mouth. They were event movies. I still remember the advertisements for The Village or for Signs or even Avatar. Like, even his good and bad movies, they had a certain spark to them that would light a fire in movie discussion, which has kind of reignited for him over the years, but also faded. He's had quite the tumultuous career, but I also feel like in terms of my relationship with the Village, it is also tumultuous. I have a real frustration with The Village. I have a real love-hate thing with The Village. I appreciate so many aspects of this movie. I think it's gorgeous. I think the music is spectacular. These performances are absolutely dazzling. This is one of the times as well where his strange dialogue that M. Night has really trapped himself inside of these days works because of the setting of the film, to a point. To a point. I would also say it's like this, and maybe Signs. It's been a while since I've watched Signs, but like I think this is really the first time of his films where like that strange, stilted, inhuman dialogue where it sounds like just off is present, because Unbreakable didn't have this like Unbreakable had naturalistic dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Same with The Sixth Sense. Like, he used to have very down-to-earth, naturalistic dialogue, but, like, William Hurt in this movie, everything he says is, like, of another time, which makes sense to a point with this movie. But, yeah, I have a real strained relationship with The Village. So when I saw it recommended, I was thrilled because I could see myself being swayed one way or the next with watching it again. Like, it's a real... I didn't know what I was going to feel when watching it again. I knew that there is frustrations, but they're different types of frustrations. So how about you? What's been your history and relationship with The Village?
It's been one that I've heard be talked about throughout the years, but I never knew anything specific about it. I just, hear The Village. I may have seen a still or two from it and, kind of get the sort of vibe from it. Like, okay, it's going to be kind of period piece, mysterious thing, and because it's a Shyamalan film, there's probably going to be some twists and turns. So nothing very specific about it, but it is one that, I've heard the name of, and I heard... I don't remember ever hearing where it fell on his, quality rankings. So when you brought it up last episode as being the point where things kind of shifted, you talked about what you just said there about like your excitement of seeing where it falls.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the other day on our meet date, you basically reiterated that again and was like, oh yeah, Ryan's
When we did Lady in the Water, we talked also about how that was like a response to how The Village didn't go over well.
Yeah, it was right after, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's why the critic exists in The Village. I mean, in Lady in the Water, because The Village didn't receive well, but yet every other film of his was critically well received. So it was kind of like even more of a little tantrum in Lady in the Water that he had that character exist, because it's like, okay, one film didn't do well for you.
Yeah, I'd completely forgotten the year that Lady in the Water came out until like last night when I was looking at his filmography. I thought it was like somewhere around 2012, like, oh no, it was like 2006 or whatever, like 2 years after The
in
Village.
The Munez era, yeah.
Yeah, basically the latter Munez era.
Mm-hmm. So you were saying you were kind of refamiliarizing with like how...
It was basically going to be me stepping in and seeing what all the fuss is about. Like, I didn't know what to expect, just knowing, who the filmmaker is, the general sort of vibes of what it could be. And because this was sort of like a middle point, walking in at least with some optimism.
So what was your experiences with The Village?
I actually quite liked it. It surprised me quite a lot. In some ways, it has gone against some of the complaints we've had about certain Hollywood films. I know that over the past couple of years on this podcast, we've talked about some films. One that keeps popping into my head, Last of the Mohicans, where it's like, okay, this film's telling this kind of story, but it feels so Hollywood, and it feels like it's kind of being held down by those, the restraints. This film felt like, like an indie film where a guy could do what he wanted to do, and it had a sort of sensibility. I've also brought up over the years European sensibility. This film didn't quite have that, but it had this kind of different feeling to where I walked out of being like, okay, which country in the world that's not America really loves this film? And I had my guess, I was wrong, and it was France. It was like, okay, France loves this film.
What was your guess?
I thought it was going to be Japan because there was, a lot of very melancholic, emotional storytelling with a lot of the characters.
I was going to guess Danish.
I
could see a version of this with Mads Mikkelsen.
I literally was thinking about The Hunt a few times during this film because, this is one of those films where, the reason why people are in this village is because of past suffering.
Yes.
And suffering was a big theme.
I will get it out of the way. I cannot buy into the twist.
Mm-hmm.
it's not even that I can't buy into it. It's the way it's presented and delivered has always rubbed up against me, and I think many people, in the wrong way. It's not only that it's ham-fisted or like pretentious, or it's one of those ones where it's like it raises so many questions about the logistics when this is a story that has been perfectly riding this atmospheric, dreamlike, folk-like kind of rationale. But then the back half, they do get bogged down in like, this is how this works, this is how that works. But then they bring it up in such a huge way. Your suspension of disbelief gets tested. And I am one of the people where it breaks. The suspension of disbelief of the conceit of the movie breaks. I can see this working. I can see why someone would defend this. I've just never been able to cross over into that threshold. It loses me. It loses me. The bit where, William Hurt grabs out the photo and we just get a fucking huge narration about like how this came to be. I just can't I can't buy it. Like, that's the thing. And it upsets me because I enjoy so much about the movie. I love the look. I think this is his best looking movie. I think the cinematography, Roger Deakins is the cinematographer, one of the best. The score is sublime. I've listened to just the score on its own over the years.
The first credit is the violinist, right?
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and you get so much here. The costumes look fantastic. This is a case where, when we talked about Lady in the Water, it's like, where did all the money go? Well, he built this hotel. This apartment complex, and you feel like that's excessive and there's no point to it. But in a film like this, was like they built this village. It's like, well, yeah, of course they did. It looks fantastic, and you need it to exist as a physical space. It matters so much, and I like the the little interesting tidbits of the culture that we learn, and so much. But then, I am one of those people who do not swallow the ending of the movie. And I think it also loses me because that odd dialogue and that just, feel is there for the people who aren't inside of the village as well. And that's where it also gets me. It's like the guy on patrol, M. Night himself, there's just something about their performances and the way they talk also feels wrong, but it doesn't have the excuse of like, well, these people are a bunch of cultish weirdos who live in the woods pretending to be from the 19th century.
The people from the towns are supposed to be, modern people, so they're meant to be naturalistic.
But they're not, to my ears, to my eyes. So, yes, that I just want to get that out of the way now, because I don't want to just crap on this movie and just keep bringing that up as the thing, because I there's so much to praise here, and there's other things that annoy me about the movie. Like, when I say frustration, it's not just the twist ruins it for me. There's other storytelling choices, there's other acting choices. I hate Adrian Brody's character altogether. Like, I don't like Adrian Brody's gurning, cartoonish performance. I don't like that type of storytelling where it's like, to spice up a story, we need the mentally handicapped character to do this and that. I didn't like it when we did Cube either. Like, that bothers me. Like, that's one of the things that bothers me, and just how the movie portrays that character is like, it to me feels like a writer just, stroking their chin, being like, oh, brilliant, I put this in. There's just there's little moments where I can feel the writer/director's hand, their ego. They're like, oh, this is so smart. And then I'm just like, no, focus on this more. But it's not enough to make me hate the movie. It's, again, that part of me where it's just like, I can feel myself tensing up with like that displeasure, but not full on going, oh, this fucking stinks. It's more just little cuts that the movie gives me, like little like a death by a thousand cuts. But there's so many things to love and adore about the film as well.
The twist didn't really bother me. I think it might be because, and in a lot of the reviews that I was reading, which, to be fair, is mostly just like the reception segment on Wikipedia, where a lot of people's, review snippets talked about like their response to the twist, where Roger Ebert, he said something along the lines of like, once I heard the twist, I wanted to rewind and forget it so that I could, unlearn it and then just watch the rest of the film without knowing it. For me, because I knew that, there's got to be some sort of twist coming, I was like coming up in my head like, okay, could be this, could be that. And what it ended up being was like, I was sort of in the right ballpark. Like, oh yeah, they're not actually creatures, it's some sort of ruse. I didn't necessarily think that it was the elders themselves who were propagating it, but I knew that like, okay, it was something like that. Okay, let's go on from there then. So yeah, that didn't really offend me or anything. The only thing that I didn't like really about, in terms of like any sort of twist, is the fact that there was a costume under the floorboards. That was
where they have a location for the costumes.
Yeah, that was the one thing in the film where I audibly went like, come on, what?
And it didn't feel like it was set up well.
That's what I was going to walk into this episode, and I forgot to say it, but I was going to say that if you could tell me that there was some sort of foreshadowing or like hint of that being the case, then I would have forgiven it.
We know that they hide underneath when the creatures are around, but I don't think it was in that location.
Because the location is established, but it's only established as being the quiet room, where when the mentally handicapped character is naughty, he will go to the quiet room for time out. Yes. And then once he stabs Lucius, that's where he's basically imprisoned. That's the one thing in the film where I'm like, come on, what was that?
What was that? Yeah, let's just rewind a bit, because we'll keep coming back to the twists and stuff as well. But I want to get your opinions on these characters, because I think M. Night is very polarizing when it comes to his writing and directing of the characters themselves. Like, I've talked about this, for instance, where one of the things I love about Unbreakable is not so much like the cool concept of like, what if a man was Superman and he didn't know it, but I genuinely feel for David Dunn and and those characters, those people, those lives. And then when Glass came about, it's like the opposite, where it's like I don't get anything out of these characters. What do you feel about The Village? Because it is about sitting inside of this community, and at least to my eye, the film doesn't really choose who the main character is. It kind of gives it to everyone.
So what I was saying a bit earlier about how this film has some sort of like indie sensibility about it, I look on the film overall as being kind of just like a sort of, I guess, character or case study kind of thing, where it's more about exploring what these characters are like in this situation, rather than necessarily like finding a resolution for the status quo or anything like that. So I see the characters as, basically revealing themselves rather than developing very much. So one of the great things with like the elders, for example, is like a lot of them tell a story from their past about like, this awful thing happened to a relative of mine or to me, and now, we are here. And then later on, you get a retelling of that story where it's the true events, and now there are all these elements from the modern day, like, it wasn't just like an assault, it was a shooting, it was over money, this thing that doesn't exist in our village. And showing their suffering, and that complements a lot of their stories that they tell, stories that the conversations that they have amongst themselves, where they talk about, this is why, we came to the village. And you get that really nice contrast with the way they talk in those scenes, where you mentioned earlier that like some of the dialogue feels a little bit off. Like, yeah, it's old-timey, they're talking old-timey, but something does feel a little bit off. And in those scenes, they are just talking kind of very normally, and you feel that difference. And then when it culminates in the end of the film in that final scene, which I was fairly okay with, where they'd been discussing about, do we move on from this village or do we keep going? And it's this very biting question, and it is open to interpretation, like where do things go from here? So yeah, I looked at this film as being that kind of character case study, if the character is the village, and really appreciating how the characters added to that whole sensibility.
I agree. I like it on that level as well, where, Ivy does take center stage, a lot of it, but Lucius does, as does William Hurt's character. Like, those three kind of juggle. Noah takes some time as well, but it is very much a study about this village, about this group of people, and what we learn about them, and the dilemma of, do you perpetuate the repression and the avoidance of suffering and pain, because it is that thing of, you need pain, you need to be able to grieve, and you need to be able to work through that to move on as people, or you become these restrictive, closed-minded, cut off from the rest of the world. And that's what the village is. It's a literal embodiment of that, in which they are living in this fantasy. They're living in this, life-sized mental gymnastics of trying to keep things stuck in time. But how sustainable is that? And as we see with characters like Lucius and Ivy, it is not sustainable. Like, things are going to move forward and progress. And we see with Noah that violence and crime and all of these things that they ran away from will naturally come anyway. Even if he himself, Noah, isn't an evil person, he still has those things that they deemed as the faults of humanity that they removed from their society. And like, all of that I like. It's heady, it gets you thinking, but the film is more focused on the feeling. It's more focused on the feelings rather than the thoughts of it all, which
Yes.
which I appreciate. That's why I get a bit hung up about the reveals at the end, because it starts to no longer live in the, let's just ride this out on the emotional plane. It's now like, I'm thinking about how M. Night put a line in there explaining why airplanes didn't fly overhead during the time of the village's existence. Like, it's shit like that, where it's like, oh, right, I have to think about like the nuts and bolts of how this story works, rather than just being able to enjoy it on these levels that we can talk about now. But like,
Right,
the film itself brings in like, hey, by the way, here's you can't cinema sins me on this. But then when you do that as a film, and it's like you have all of these things that aren't explained, then you are welcoming that as well. It's like, there are films that can just, like, we did Phantom of the Paradise, right?
Yes.
That film, it just lives in like, here's the dreamiest, like, dreamy world we're in, and this is how this works. Like, does it make any practical sense? Probably not, but we're not asking you to take it in that way. This film does that for the most part, but then it doesn't.
Another film that we did that, lives in its own world? Last episode.
Yeah.
Stranger Than Fiction. We literally ended the episode saying it earned its suspension of disbelief.
Yes. And this has a bit of a tug of war, because I like these characters. I like Ivy a lot. I think Bryce Dallas Howard is truly magnetic as a performer. It's so funny to contrast this with her terrible performance in Lady in the Water, where she's also playing like this, this magical girl character.
Her name's Story.
Her name's Story. But in this, she's so real. She's snarky, and she cheats, and she's not fully blind. She's visually impaired. We never find out what Lucius's color is to her. We never find that out. I was waiting for us to find out. Like, there was going to be that little... But like you said, this doesn't go for the Hollywoodisms of it all. Like, that would be the Hollywoodisms where she comes back and like...
It was red.
Or you see from her eyes what he is, and it's like angelic or whatever. Like, no, they don't do that. The movie actually ends in a very unceremonious way, where she's like, I'm back. And then it just cuts. That's it, done. She's back now. The medicines, like, that's it. And we get little photos of the village and the credits. Like, that's it.
I think it was a bit more profound than that, because everyone else in the room is going through like something really troubling, but she's happy for her happy ending that she just earned.
Yeah, but it's not like, oh, we know Joaquin Phoenix is saved. We know, like, who knows? It just ends. Like, we don't know if they make the decision or not to perpetuate the village. I read it that they are going to perpetuate the village, but if
they
you read it
probably
otherwise,
are, but I like that, it's open.
it's a little bit more open. But what did you think of I said it, but Ivy is very fun to me. I like that she's given permission to be cheeky and insightful, and it's the typical thing of the character that's blind is actually the one who sees the most,
I in terms of a twist, I guess the twist for me was that Joaquin Phoenix would bow out of the story and she'd become the main character.
Mm-hmm.
That was a nice surprise because I was basically just thinking of her as like, ooh, this major supporting character in this story. But then once she's front and center and she has to go on the journey while being, blind in a place that was forbidden to her whole life, it was genuinely like thrilling, even though, the twist that you were given that, so many people were, I guess, rightfully disappointed by was, oh, there's no actual danger.
Yeah. Well, then there is danger.
Sorry, there is no like supernatural creatures that are going to kill you.
It's just Adrian Brody.
It is literally the woods, yeah. And she's blind.
And Adrian Brody being a freak.
Yeah, that was the twist that I didn't like, the fact that she held up the costume.
Yeah, well...
But then again, that was his behavior that was the problem there, not the costume.
Yeah, it's all a mixture, isn't it? Is this one of the few, if only, films where you could argue, let's just argue for the sake of it that she's the lead character.
Mm-hmm.
Is this one of the few, if only, films where it's a lead female character for M. Night? The rest are usually men.
Split?
Yeah, Split.
It's like
Split
kidnapped
would
girls.
Be Split,
yeah.
And maybe The Visit with the two kids, I would say. But this would be the first in his run of like what we consider M. Night. I know he did some kids movies before this, but like Sixth Sense on, this would be like the first where the female character is the lead.
I think the only M. Night film I've seen that we haven't covered on the podcast was Split, so I'm not entirely sure.
I would say so.
Yeah.
I would say so, unless you're going to count Katara from Avatar, but I think it's more Aang. So there you go.
I saw parts of that, I guess.
But I was just commenting on that because...
We're not counting Stuart Little.
Because Joaquin Phoenix is far less interesting of a main character to me. He's noble of heart, but he's not very wise. He's just kind of... He wants to do the right thing, but he's still... brainwashed by the society, while she is a believer of the society, but she has a certain something else to her that gives her the ability, when she is told about the truth of it all, to still persevere and move forward.
The price of her sight and the thing she gets in return is wisdom. No, but I really did feel for Joaquin in the sense that like his character, while he was the main character, was that he was trying to break new ground with the villagers' beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
He had reason to believe that Noah, the mentally ill one, the mentally handicapped one, would not get hurt by the creatures. So he thinks, there's some sort of inherent qualities in people that make them immune to the creatures. I have a certain, lack of fear. Not that he's boastful or anything like that.
He's an honest person.
He's an honest person. He thinks that he will be immune to, their persecution as well. And he tests that out in a few different ways. Eventually he breaks the big taboo and then they attack. And then he writes a very sorrowful note saying like, I was completely wrong about everything. I'm so sorry. And in my mind, this type of village, they'll go up in arms, like, how could you do this, heretic kind of thing. But like the very gentle and understanding response that they had towards him, like I really felt for him there. Yes. I really enjoyed, it was a very understated performance, but he really sold it.
I mentioned loathing Adrian Brody's character and performance. I think a part of it is it's already understandable in much more subtle ways that this is a town made up of mentally unwell people.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those other elders have like these rictus grins and like glazed eyes performances. There's other people in the village, even like Joaquin Phoenix, who, we note as an actor, he is a strange person in real life, and he often plays strange people in movies. And he is odd in this too. Like, you get like he's wound up person who wants to break free and wants to do the right thing, noble things, but he is, kind of like a child stuck in a grown-up's body. Like, there's that, and there's like the Michael Pitt character, the one that he spends time in the Watchtower with, who's always freezing all the time. Or you get Judy Greer's character, the one who wants to marry Joaquin Phoenix, the sister of Ivy. She's odd. Like, she's odd in these weird ways where it's like a lot of the younger people are odd in the ways that you see people who are, grown up in cults or homeschooled, or like, these people who are removed from society.
Yeah, unnaturally upbeat kind of childishness.
And they just don't have a certain type of ability to see a bigger picture than themselves.
Like, her love confession to him was this whole poetic thing that like ended in like laughter and things like that.
And they have, because of their religious upbringing, all of these patterns that when you're watching the movie at face value, like when you don't know the twist, you just take it as, oh, this is the behaviors of the rhetoric that they've been grown up with. But then once you know the twist, like, oh, this is a community raised by people who are mentally unwell because of these traumas, a lot of their behaviors are like almost like Munchausen by proxy. Like, there's like all of these weird OCD tics that a lot of them have, that the adults have. The guy that Judy Greer gets married to, how he's all weird about his shirts.
Wrinkles.
And it's funny at first, but like the more you see it, it's still, I find that like a funny one, but it's like, oh, that's not right, is it? And that,
a lot of people online that, criticizing this film really demonize the elders because, one of the consequences of them moving away from the society that has medicines is that they allowed things like...
how we open the film?
How did the film open again?
A father crying over the coffin of his child who died because they couldn't get him medicine.
Oh, yeah, that was how it
that's
started.
how we open the movie.
Yeah, that's a great example, but I was also going to bring up, like, the blindness.
Yes.
Like, that could have been treated. And I think someone made the argument that, I guess Noah's condition might have actually been brain damage or something, so maybe that could have been prevented.
Joaquin Phoenix argues that we could get him medicine and see if that could fix him. And
yes.
the argument is, no, he's pure.
And that's one of the, up in the air questionable things of like, well, yeah, you do want to live in society, but, one of the consequences of that is that preventable things will not be prevented.
I don't think the film... The film very clearly makes it understandable that the elders are in the wrong with what they're doing. Like, they're gaslighting these people, they're indoctrinating them, they're brainwashing them, they're lying to them, they're literally scaring the shit out of them, and at the end, they're going to potentially use the death of one of their own children to perpetuate the myth. So the film understands that they're in the wrong, that there's something wrong with this. But like, the Noah character, he bugs me because he's like the most overt, like, he's crazy. He's so wild and out of line. There's something wrong with this village, when I thought the eeriness of all of the other touches that we've got was enough. Like, the elders themselves, like, they're not, like, Sigourney Weaver is in this movie, by the way. She plays Joaquin Phoenix's mother, and just look at her in this movie. You can tell it's like, are you okay? Like, are you all right? Like, she just looks disheveled in a certain way, and not just because it's like in period pieces. She just has those kind of manic eyes and like the very judgmental, stiff kind of opposition that she faces. And it's like, when you're first watching the movie, you're just thinking, oh, she's protective of her son, but once you know everything, you're like, oh, right, you got a screw loose or two as well.
They're definitely shown to be in the wrong, but I just really like the element that, like, when confronted about it, like, they actually really feel it.
Oh,
like,
of course.
Like, especially when Ivy's father, who I think he was great in the film, when he confronts them, when he sent her off.
Yeah, William Hurt.
Yes.
You know what we've had him in before? He was the lead in a movie that we did.
Oh my god, yes, he was. It was a few years ago, right?
Do you want me to help you?
Yes.
Travolta?
Was he... Oh, was he in Michael?
Yeah, he was the lead of Michael.
Oh, yeah,
William
yeah.
Hurt. I've often said that I've not been a fan of William Hurt. I find him very dry as an actor, but damn, I see him in The Village. I'm like, man, you were a actor. Like, you are doing the Lord's work in this movie, because he's very emotive. He's very reasonable. He seems the most reasonable person in the movie, but then look at what he's allowed to happen for all of this time and you go, you're also one of the most fucked up, huh? Because you have the ability of rational thought, but then you also made all of this happen. So, like, as a cult leader, in quotations, he doesn't meet the traditional standards that we would pin down. Like, this isn't The Wicker Man, yet it also made me think of the film The Wicker Man at many times, like the original and the Nicolas Cage remake.
No.
But he doesn't,
Yeah.
William Hurt doesn't, tick all of the boxes of, like, kooky cult leader living out in the woods.
Yeah, and his co-conspirators even call him out, like, we made this agreement. Why are you going against it?
You agreed to the pledge. You're the guy. Why are you going against this? Because he's reached his breaking point.
One of the others was Brendan Gleeson.
Yes, he was the one that opened the movie with the crying of his dead son.
Yeah, I saw a film not too long ago where Brendan Gleeson and Joaquin Phoenix were in it.
Oh.
It was called Joker.
Oh,
He was
get it right. Which Joker was it?
The second one.
Folia Du.
That's it, yeah. He was the prison guard.
Oh, good. They got to reunite.
Yeah.
I'm sure they've worked on maybe another... It feels like they've probably worked on other movies together. I don't know if that's true, but Brendan Gleeson's an actor that's in everything, and you kind of forgot that he's been around for so long. Like, he's just one of those, oh, you were here. Brendan Gleeson, everyone. Like, oh, great. Like, cool. It's Brendan Gleeson, and now his children are taking over. I like his children as actors. Like, Domhnall Gleeson always plays freaks, and I love to see it.
I think I've seen him in a few things.
He was in Star Wars.
I know that he was
the fascist in Star Wars.
Was his name Hux or something?
Yeah, General Hux. One of the best characters of the new Star Wars.
I'm sure
he's unrepentantly evil.
I'm sure I've seen him in something else, but I just cannot think of it.
He's in a million things. He's one of those, oh, it's you're in this. But the film's made up of a lot of great, like, you can tell this is M. Night at his height. He has the cachet, he has the reputation, he has it all. Because the people who do the cinematography, the score, all of these actors, just all of it's there. You can see on the screen that this is a filmmaker in their prime. Some of his best shots are in this movie. I really love the cinematography, just the whole way the camera moves when the girls are down in the basement and you get the beam of light across their face and the camera kind of does a Dutch angle and then kind of keeps going around. It's so well done. It's slow. It's meticulous. The film has such a great build-up of tension.
The hand scene just before that, too.
Oh, yeah. And even the little bits that we see of the creatures and their costumes, they look scary. They look effective. Yeah. Even when we know Adrian Brody's running around in that outfit, it's scary. Like, it's a scary looking outfit.
Well, we didn't know it was him.
Oh, yeah,
until they fell in the pit.
Yeah, but, like, it's someone in the... Like, it's not a creature.
We didn't know it was him until the great line of, like, he found the thing under the floorboards.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we could put together. Yeah. But, even that whole sequence, it's like, it's one of the people from the village in the outfit, but it still is creepy and scary.
Well, you did have the line. I think there was even a flashback to it where it was like, it was based on some sort of rumors from long, long ago. So
yeah, which is a bullshit from him still. Like, he's still lying to her. Still lying to her.
About that line?
Because he's still trying to scare her. A little bit. Like, why would you even say that if you want her to go to the place?
If you're questioning the reason behind... Yeah.
Why would you say that?
That's a really good point, actually.
He's still spooking her because she's blind. She won't know the truth. That's why he sent a blind person. Like, they even said, you sent the blind girl out to do this? It's like, because she'll be the only one that doesn't know the truth. Because if you said literally anyone out there, they'll realize, oh, here's a car. What's that? Here's a guy that's like me, but he's wearing pants. Like, they would question things, but she can't because she can't see.
Okay, I guess I just took that as like, oh yeah, this is what I got the idea from.
Yeah, I mean, he probably did. I mean, he said he was a professor of history, but that's the thing.
It's the flashback to that line, the repeat of the line that was like, oh, come on.
Yes, and that's what I mean. There's like a lot of voiceover stuff near the end that I just find sloppy, and what I'm saying about William Hurt, I don't believe he did that maliciously, but it's one of those things where you have to question, why would he bring that up? Why would they question him sending the blind person? It's like, oh, well, here's the rationale that you can get from it. Whether you take it that way or not, up to you. I kind of do, because they make such a big deal out of it, and it works out nicely at the end where the status quo will remain. What do you feel about the park itself being named Walker? And then he himself, like his last name is Walker, the William Hurt character. He's Walker, I'm pretty sure. And then you reveal like the park that they live in is the Walker Park.
Oh, I actually didn't connect that.
Yeah, Edward Walker is his name, and then the park that they work at is the Walker Park. So
it was interesting that like the location had significance to the town as far as we could tell from the fact that there's a whole patrol centered around it. Yeah, that again, it brings up more questions. We didn't see as much of the town as one might expect. It was literally just 2 scenes.
Yeah. Am I being unfair? Because this is your first time watching it, so you can give me a much more fresh take. Did the people from outside the village, did they sound like that M. Night Strange way to you, or did they feel like more real to you? Like, was a differentiation for you?
Kevin felt fine. The patrolman, he just seemed like a normal guy who was trying to maintain the status quo with a person that he figured was from his community, but then realized something was off, and that made him confused, and he kind of thought that like he was being pranked or something. Like I think when he was being given the payment, he thought that it was like a trick or something. He literally says, "Are you tricking me?" So I can give him a pass in terms of like, oh yeah, he's just trying to make sense of everything. I took M. Night as being a bit more of like a microcosm of what the society might be a bit more like. I don't exactly remember the details of what he was saying, but it did feel very stiff and orderly.
Is he in on it, M. Night?
Again, it went by. I was going to say so quickly, but
it wasn't.
It wasn't.
It was really slowly.
It was a pretty slow scene. I don't know. I just didn't really take in what he was saying. I was just taking in, I guess, sort of the vibe of it, where like there is like, don't question this kind of thing. Let it happen. Whatever.
We got in trouble years ago because of government taking away fly zones here, and then people it's like, oh, okay, so that's why airplanes don't fly over.
I guess what I'm saying is I saw the patrolman as being like a character who's not in the know and trying to make sense of it, and being a likable character, and M. Night being a bit more of a storytelling device.
Yes, he is. I loathe M. Night's performance in this, not only his performance but the existence, because it does, if you go back, it really does read to me as the film having to explain the conceits. Like, we already had the voiceover from William Hurt, which is, it opens up a lot of stuff anyway. It's like, okay, well, how did they make this village? How did they get the construction equipment? Like, there must be, like, this is a huge thing to do. Like, you can't just walk into a reserve and build a village inside of there and no one notices. And so it's like, M. Night's here to explain how they could kind of get away with that. It's like, here's the flight plans and here's this, and don't question things. And like, he has this kind of air of like, he's in on it, but he doesn't confirm it. And they have to hide the fact that he's getting medicine for one of the residents inside there. So it's like, is he not in on it? But what I really hate, and the film does this near the end, is, and we've seen this with M. Night, he is a person that has messages. He has themes. He can do subtext, but then he just gets insecure that the audience doesn't get it. He just hits you over the head with the world is violent and cruel, and that's why these people have retreated in there. But at the end of the day, a part of human nature is that violence, and we have to get with it. He's reading the newspaper. Did you see what was in the newspaper?
I tried, but it was too small and I was too far.
Everything in the newspaper was about this person was murdered, this body was found here, this person was raped, and it's like,
okay.
He was reading the murder paper is what I call it. It's just one of those things where it's like, 1 would be enough. 2, but like, it was like 5? It was a whole paper was just like, grisly murdered, like when they're listening to the radio. It's like all of this stuff's like, I get it. The world is a vile place and that's why they ran away. Like, we got it with like their little stories. But then it's like, the film wants to argue with the adventures that Lucius and Ivy go on, that there's more to the world than that. But then when we go outside the village, the elders are proven correct, because the only outside take we get is one guy who's new and so desperate for money And he does this job that he's just like, okay. And the other guy who's reading a paper about how everything the elders said is in fact correct. So in fact, the village should stay.
Maybe the idea was like, oh, the audience will, no matter where they look in the paper, they'll at least see one story about death. They're not meant to read all of it.
Yeah, I can see.
It's like
I literally can see that being a reason.
It's like the Korok seeds in Breath of the Wild that I told you about. There's like 800 scattered across the whole map because that means every player will have a chance of finding at least some.
But that's a frustration again. I use that word with M. Night. He wants you to pick apart his films. He wants you to engage with them. He wants you to see how brilliant these little touches he puts in. So this is one where it's like, it feels like he doesn't trust the audience to understand what's been established. That voiceover monologue from William Hurt feels like we have to communicate across the point of their backstory, because how else would you? How else would you communicate it?
Yeah, that's a good point.
These are the things that rub me raw. Like, and here's a question too. Like, this is an obvious one. Outside of like, it's a cool idea, bro. Why do you need it to be that they're in the modern day pretending to be from the 19th century? Why can't you just have it be they're in the 19th century and they're holding people inside of their village via fake monsters? Like, what more do you get from the reveal it's modern day other than cool twist, bro? What do you get? I'm curious.
I don't think that's the premise at all. I think everything they tell you about the towns just spells out to you like, oh, it's modern day. I didn't see that as a twist in the slightest.
So you never thought when watching the movie that it was actually in the 19th century?
At the start, yes, but the more I started hearing about the towns, it was like, oh, okay, so the towns is like modern and this is like secluded.
Okay. I mean, that's fair, but like, even that's still like, why? But like, what? I'm still curious of like, what necessitates it being still modern when you could still have this version of the story where it is the 19th century and they're just pretending that there's monsters outside to keep people in? Because I do believe the film treats it as like it's a twist reveal when they open up the mystery box to unravel what's the story here. Like, they actually open a mysterious box that's been set up throughout the whole movie to give us the explanation of like what's been going on. Like
the shed.
Yeah, no. Like, William Hurt, every elder has in their house a box with a lock that opens up and they take their pictures out.
Mm-hmm.
That's the mystery box that explains that this is actually modern day. Right? That's a mystery box. And like, you get the whole voiceover narration. Like, I feel like that is them being like, here's a twist reveal, everyone. Like, you and I can pick up the modernisms throughout it. But like, I'm curious, like, what does the modernism give this movie other than just like, oh, here's a thing that's clever? Like, you thought at the start that it was actually in the past, but it's actually in the modern day. Like, I still chew on that a bit because there's stuff that we've talked about here that it works about, but then there's other things where just like,
I guess
it just feels like you're trying to be clever.
I guess for me, it was just like a surface level difference. Like, hey, even in, this modern day setting, they've managed to establish a village that's like this. Look at this village that exists somewhere in 2004.
Okay.
If this film is set in 2004.
It is.
There you go, yeah.
The paper probably says it, knowing M. Night. Yeah, no, I can see that point. For me, there's that struggle of like, I never cared if the monsters were or were not real. I never cared that there were elders abusing their powers. Like, oh, that's fine. It is just, I have a difficulty buying it being modern day and they got away with all of this. Like, I
think based on this discussion and a lot of those like snippets of reviews I've read, I've just given this film a lot of suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
And I've benefited greatly from it.
I can give it suspension of disbelief if it lived more in the dreamlike than it ends up doing, because it does, with M. Night, his reveals, he does always want to get into it. Like, see how clever this was? See how Elijah and Unbreakable did this and this and this and this? Or The Sixth Sense, it's like, here's the thing. And now you can sit back and look how clever it was that we did all of the pieces. But I actually feel like The Village is one where it's like, demands, if anything, to keep those things blurred. But it wants to put them in focus. And then if it does put it in focus, I can't help but be like, okay then, M. Night, if it's in focus now, how the fuck did they construct the village physically without anyone noticing?
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't want to look at the film that way because it doesn't want you to, but at the same time, it opens its door and says, come look at it this way. And it's like, buddy, please.
It's funny because I think of this film and a lot of the things I think of are like, yeah, that was really well done. That was really well done. But I don't walk away saying that I loved it. Yeah, I really like it is basically where I stand.
Yeah, so that is...
So there's clearly, something still
that is
to be improved.
That is The Village. I'm still 50-50. Like, there's so much I appreciate. So much great craftsmanship, these performances. Little moments of writing here and there that are just sublime. Like, oh, I really loved just the scenes of, Joaquin Phoenix and Bryce Dallas Howard just sitting there looking at the foggy landscape and talking about what it is to be. Like, these are the things. And, that kind of overwritten way that M. Night does this works beautifully. Again, it works so well within this setting. Like, I was able to buy into that than, say, when he did it in Glass, where it's like, oh, Sarah Paulson's going to chat in this way. It's like, come on, buddy. Like, what happened to us being superheroes in the real world, but now it's like garbage world. Like, this has that permission a lot more. But I would happily watch it again in the future, but it is one where it's just like, I see why people turned against him with this movie, because it does have that air of like, aren't I clever, but actually kind of not. But then he's such a good filmmaker here that I can't fault him. Like, oh man, that's just a well constructed scene.
Yeah, I finished the film and I was kind of like, Ryan said this one people were 50-50 on, but that was actually pretty good. And then I read the reviews and now I've done this episode. It's like, okay, I can see it a little bit more now, what the contention is.
Yeah, and then he made Lady in the Water, which really sealed his fate, I think.
I know it's been a couple of years, but didn't we like that one?
It was, it was a great unappreciated masterpiece of cinema.
I kept a straight face this time.
We love Paul Giamatti.
It's still our Facebook banner, 200th episode.
Yeah, we need to update it.
That's over 50% of our library ago.
I know. But The Village, everyone, let us know what you think of The Village. I'm curious what everyone else thinks of The Village. And I agree with Amanda. This is a great thriller. Like, it has these scenes that are just, makes your palms sweat and gets you really involved with the film itself. Like, I was thinking about, I can't remember if it was Amanda or Stefan, kind of maybe both of them. One of them recommended The Menu, for instance.
That was, I think, both of them.
And the Menu's fun. Like, that's a fun movie, but it didn't have, in terms of its horror, thriller, suspense stuff, the level that the filmmaking that this does. You know what I'm talking about? But it's trying to. But, like, you see a film like this, which I think is way more flawed than The Menu, but I kind of appreciate, like, I'm drawn to those moments where it's trying to give you the chills and the thrills more than that film, which overall is much more competent, but it doesn't have those highs like this does.
We didn't talk about the first scene with the pit where she almost falls in, gets so muddy, and then she gets out and she just cannot get the mud off and she just cries. Like, I really, really felt for her there.
That was a happy accident too, because
I read that trivia.
I was reading about this, where it unexpectedly snowed and then it washed away, but it made everything so muddy and horrible.
And then they dug the pit.
And then they dug the pit, and that's why it's so muddy. But it works, and you actually can see the snow still remaining, especially in the scene when she's standing in the field of berries. You can see the white patches on the ground.
There's like frost or something.
Yeah, there's frost and snow. So, but hey, I never thought about it. I was just like, oh man, this is so oppressive. Like that, all of the, like, Bryce Dallas Howard being vision impaired stuff was really well utilized. Like, when you walk into a movie and, like, it's going to be a horror film or horror-esque film, and one of the characters has an impairment of some sort, you want them to use that in a sequence. And this film says we're going to use it in many of them. But that is The Village. Everyone, I do recommend it. But despite everything I've said, I still recommend it because I would put this in the camp of good M. Night movies that we've, like, in his camp of good ones. I think it's flawed, which I think also makes it unique in a way for me, because I'm pretty black and white with M. Night. Either masterpieces or failures. And this is one of the ones where it's like, oh, it's a flawed, dare I say, unappreciated masterpiece.
Yes. And in Ryan's lexicon, flawed is actually a pretty decent reason to check out a film.
Yeah, it is.
And I buy into it as well, yeah.
They can be very interesting, flawed films. It's like, oh, look, does it fuck it up here? Yeah, it does. But at the same time, he's doing all of these other things.
No, I mean, you could isolate a million moments in this episode of you wholeheartedly praising things in this film, and I think that alone makes it a recommended from you.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, I'm not recommending it.
Wow.
No, I do recommend it. I really like it.
Where does this rank in Joaquin Phoenix's filmography for you? You're quite the Joaquin Phoenix expert because your mum loves him and Leo. It seems as actors, and I guess Shah Rukh Khan, the three biggies.
Is this and The First Gladiator the only ones I've seen without my mum next to me?
Wow.
No, what have I seen him in the past?
Have we had him on the podcast before?
I don't know if we've had him on the...
I don't think we've covered a Joaquin Phoenix movie.
I think last night I literally said I should check before we do the episode, and then I didn't.
Wow. You really messed it up. But what is your recommendation for the next movie to talk about on the pod?
Well, Ryan, we started this episode talking a lot about, a certain Tom Hanks film from the 90s, and I'm going to tell you now that was just a coincidence. I'm not recommending Forrest Gump.
Oh, no. Is it your foreign film this time?
No, American.
Hollywood? Okay, he's not recommending Forrest Gump. That was just a tease.
Yes. No, I'm going to the 60s, Ryan.
Oh, good. You're going back in time a bit.
Yes. To I think it was the end of the 60s, 1969, was it?
Okay.
Yep. And it's a film we've mentioned before, and we've both seen, and we both like it.
Good.
Yep. It's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Oh, good. Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. I'm very excited about that. I have it here in my collection of DVDs and Blu-rays. So,
I've got my copy at home.
That will be a good old time for us. So everyone make sure to give that a viewing for yourself, and we shall be back next time to talk about that. I mean, that will be the first time we've had I think that'll be the first time we've had either Paul Newman or Robert Redford on our show, right? I don't think we've had either of them.
Sure.
I would guess we've probably had Robert Redford on more than we've had Paul Newman. If I had to guess, out of the two, it would be him because, he's still around kicking, making movies, and I could see Robert Redford being in a Munez movie. Not really, but could you imagine if Robert Redford was in Big Fat Liar? That would have been
any of the Munez era.
Any of it. But everyone, thank you so much for listening to us. If you want to contact us or follow us, make sure to do that. We are on the social medias of Facebook and Twitter, Spit and Polish Presents. And if you want to just ping us with an email, we have one of those. What is it, Bartek?
Yeah, we got one. It's called spitandpolished@gmail.com.
We are on all of those podcasting sites. We're on YouTube as well, so make sure to follow and subscribe to get all of those episodes, and rate and review the show. Share it around with all of your friends, family, and foes. Okay?
Yeah, they might hate watch it, and maybe they'll like it.
Maybe they'll fucking like it. They'll love it. I have a final query for you about the village.
It's like a question.
It's like a question, but it's a different word. It's shorter. So I want to know from you: would you wear that outfit, the monster outfit? Would you want to put that on?
I really liked how vivid both the red and yellow ones were.
Mm.
In fact, when I mentioned earlier, I was thinking what are some other possibilities of the twists? I was thinking were they under the mistaken thought that red and yellow are opposites, but they're both primary colors? Then I got to thinking is there going to be a third faction with a blue cloak out there? Because that's the last primary color, but no, there was none. Yeah, so I really liked both tones of the cloak's colors.
I would love to wear that outfit. I was reading the trivia that he had a much different design for the monsters. They were actually a part of the promos and advertisements for the movie, like drawings and illustrations of them.
Hmm.
They were much more like lions or whatever. But when they
like in the
rocked
rock
up,
paintings.
yeah, when they rocked up with those physically on the set, he goes, "No, that's
It was too
impractical.
silly, yeah.
That's impractical." So then he came up with the porcupine pig monster thing, and I think they look awesome. I love it. I like, when we talk about M. Night Shyamalan, there's always something from one of his movies that lingers with you. A shot, a performance, a piece of music, something. There's like, I find with most of his movies, even the bad ones, there's something I take away. Like I shit on it. I hate Glass, but I think of that pink room that they were all in when they were in the mental institution. Like, I think about that a lot.
Oh yeah, the white walls, the way the lighting worked on it.
Yeah, or James McAvoy getting the flashes of light to change his personalities, even though that makes no sense. This film, it's that scene where Bryce Dallas Howard is by the tree, and then the monster / Adrian Brody is just kind of standing there, breathing heavy, and it just gets under my skin. Even though it's like, I know when I watch it, it's just a guy in a suit that's going to get run into a pit and die. It's still like
the way the camera was moving, and it did it both in that first time we saw them and in that scene where it's like, oh, the camera turning is showing you like, oh, anything can be happening off screen. Now there could be another one in front of her.
Yeah, but final question. What M. Night...
Question?
Question now. This is a real
Thank
question.
you. Question's much less woke than query.
What is the next M. Night film that you would be excited to watch on this? Like, out of what's left of his catalog that we haven't done, is there any in particular that you are like, oh man, I would, that's one I wouldn't mind having a look at? Because for me, it was The Village, and then someone recommended it. I was like, oh, great. But like, is there any for you that's remaining that you're like, ooh, I have or haven't seen, but ooh, I want to give that a look?
I'd like to actually properly see The Sixth Sense
Okay.
with my broken disc.
You still watch it on the broken disc, though?
No, I gave that to my stepbrother at some point.
Oh, so you like The Ring? You gave it to someone else?
I think
first,
I think I told him, like, if you could like fix this one day somehow, like that'd be great. Or maybe I brought it up and he said, "Could you give it to me?" And
yeah,
I've never heard anything about it since. Though.
Sixth Sense. That makes sense. So stupid.